Hello. So this is an ad hoc video, but I thought it is important to put this content out so there's a better context and understanding of what I'm doing. The thing is, I study the human body. I study human physiology. I facilitate original humane intelligence from a biodynamic perspective. A lot of people don't know biodynamic. Over the years, I've noticed that even people who practice um, craniosacral therapy, and I've had to kind of emphasize and distinguish that I practice biodynamic craniosacral therapy because a lot of people have a difficulty connecting with what the biodynamic part of the work is. We tend to get into techniques, and biodynamic perspective is different, approach is different, how we see life is different. Having said that, I have been doing this work from a biodynamic perspective since 2013. No, I think it's much earlier than that. Before I even knew I was thinking in terms of biodynamics. And over time, I found traces of my inquiry, even in my childhood, primary school. So um, everybody comes into existence from a certain thought line because human beings, just like they say, are born from the stars. We are stardust, born from somewhere out there in the galaxy, the universe. But we also, over time, I'm thinking, we marinate in the living forces. There's a saying that we are we were in our grandmother's ovary while she was growing up. So we've been not just a stardust, just dropped out of somewhere and then born in a mother's womb, but have been kind of marinating, getting a sense of what it means to be human over time, and then um, and then have formed into the body we have, the with the reason for being in existence, why we do what we do, why do we have the tendencies we have, because we may be also picking up traits from our grandmother and her environment while she was growing up, um, and the family trees, mother's family tree, father's family tree, several influences, which we then pick up over time, marinate, and then we come to the form, structure, thoughts, ideas, and what we do, what we don't do. So this is some of the things I discovered en route studying the same human body, same human being since some time. And when I talk about it, when I talk about the human body, human being, um, and I haven't been speaking too much in terms of this, but I've been speaking in terms of mythology, been speaking in terms of perspectives which may have been difficult to connect with, maybe, or even if they did, people may be saying, I know this. You're talking human things. I'm a human. I know human. So human does human. Yeah, there's nothing that I don't know about human. Like, it is difficult to even think of I don't know about human. Because I'm human, I'm supposed to be knowing this. Yeah. So there is a certain prejudice from where being human also in some ways gets affected. And I'm speaking, I have my whole business around human. And I'm saying that a human, ours is a human economy, and not dogs or cats. And a human being itself, um, a human body is being studied from. Now, there's a difference between human being and human body. Yeah. And the human body has been studied from different fields of medicine: allopathy, homeopathy, Ayurveda, Unani, Reiki, what have you, many, many. And the human being also has been studied, is being studied from many facets: the Buddhist perspective, religious perspectives, science, how the particle and vehicle are connected. Biology is not being regarded as a pure science, while physics, chemistry, mathematics is. And I find that pretty interesting. Also because biology is a study of bio, physics, chemistry, mathematics. Um, Chemistry is as though it's more arrived at. It's like chemicals, and then from there, and with a Y. Yeah, there's a why already there in that. At least that inquiry is more established, kind of. But physics is like economics, something like it. Um, yeah, mathematics is also it's there, but something like it. We haven't really known everything about it, kind, and we haven't yet figured out the why for it, also, kind. But it works. Yeah, economics, and we have biology. We are still studying the bio. So there are several clues like this in language, and I happen to be studying language also in these perspectives because I noticed humans are interesting, and we're all on the same planet Earth. And we've also been studying signs of life, and are we alone in the world? Well, I was thinking we're all on the same planet Earth. How are we alone? Yeah. So I was thinking, why is it so very interesting? It's pretty weird. I was thinking I had to kind of look like that. Yeah, because something was not obvious. And then there's this idea of people being alone. So I was thinking people are amongst a crowd and are feeling alone. Yeah, and then this idea of a mirror broken. We're going to break it. Each piece of the mirror you see yourself being alone in each of the mirror pieces. I was thinking, there are all these things. Yeah. So the mystery deepens. No, the inquiry gets more, there are some things that is not obvious. Why? And over time, I discovered there are no contradictions in life. What there is a lack of perspective. So there are some aphorisms like this. Yeah, but it's kind of like statements that you arrive at. Like you have the standard model of particle physics, from particles being discovered, recognized, and then you put them because this is true, more true than anything else, or this is true, this is always there. Until you find something else and you say, okay, this particle is like this, it should be slightly like this. Yeah, like you discovered the Faraday's law, Faraday's ways of thinking, equations. From light has magnetic properties, and the magnetic properties affect the substrate, the substance that light interacts with. And that changes how we apply the law, or we are seeing results, but why those results happen is now being seen from a new light. So this is like this, actually, it's slightly like this. Yeah. And then we make small course corrections on how we've been interpreting data. Now I've been studying the human. So I arrived at these aphorisms. There are no contradictions in life. What there is a lack of perspective. So some people call it as positive affirmations. Yeah, their life is working, and then there are some things they say. You keep saying this, and then it's true, but often I find it is not. It sometimes seems like icing on a mud cake. They haven't really arrived at how that sentence is true, but they keep saying it and saying it and saying it as it's true. But there is the underlying question of how is it true from their subconscious, unconscious, or superconscious minds somewhere, and then it's standing a little like this. It is true, but maybe it's true, like this, and then the doubts and other things and behavior dynamics. I often find positive affirmation is truths that you've arrived at over and over and over, such that you can step on it, stand on it, and it's going to be there, supporting your other thought lines, or this can change if something better comes. That may not be how people are relating with these positive affirmations, yeah, positive statements. That then helps their life story, life sentence get a little not something that's going to get them into trouble there, yeah, or has life be difficult. Now, I made making this video because there is a certain aspect which is not so obvious. Again, there are several facets here, but one of the things I found about humans is people also seek liberation from life. Yeah, there are those thought lines. Why do they do that? I had to wonder as to why people do that when we are all on the same planet, Earth. And Earth is the only planet that has been supporting life in some time. Yeah, great infrastructure. Yeah, sunlight and different. Okay, there are places where there is snow. Yeah, but we are all alive on planet Earth. there are different details. So are only the people who are in the snow cold regions seeking for liberation from life? No. People who are there in balmy water, air and sunlight and greenery, they're also looking about, it's pretty interesting how people seek liberation from life and those kinds of thought lines. And then there's this thought of aliens, yeah, and UFOs, and um, extraterrestrial beings, and heaven and hell and demons and angels and gods. And so I had to make sense of what is going on, yeah. And then, so you'd say through different rabbit holes, looking for answers. So I would do courses, but courses also themselves, they're not providing some certain answers. It's as though after some time, they're kind of talking the same things. And I find that this is not providing answers. You got to look at stuff other than where people are looking, or you got to look at the same stuff from a different perspective. Yeah, something is not obvious. So I had to look under the surface over many, many perspectives. They're looking from here, I look at it from here. Yeah. So I discovered a few things, actually, a lot of things. It seems like what I'm saying is you'll discover an estimate of how much I have known. I was thinking, as of I tweeted yesterday, I think, that I'm speaking about life, that I'm kind of like 99% tranquility. And I only have to do 1% of everything. Yeah. And though everything seems to be, including this video and many, many things, I'm just wondering if that is because life is kind of like, I better speak than be jostled by things that are not working. Yeah. Or there is so many things, so much work to do. I only have to do 1% of everything. Yeah. But I often find that life is more beautiful from my ways of thinking. So I don't know, maybe it is 99% of how people are functioning is because they don't know how I live. Yeah. And there is no simple way to say it because um, we haven't been studying the same human body from the perspectives that I have been appreciating it. And so it's like the six blind men and the elephant. And you're talking about the human body, not even of the human being. Okay. So I thought I'd slowly start speaking some of my perspectives so it's a little more clearer. Consider, now there are some Instagram videos. I'll post one of those in the description. Where they're talking about humans are like, there are ancient beings, yeah, amphibians and reptiles and insects from all so much times when life has been showing up. And we are like a monster inside, yeah, just holding our stuff inside. And we are not those delicate beings, but we are like a monster inside, just and then keeping it together, yeah. We may be the most dangerous on the planet. And I was thinking, that's what got us into trouble, yeah, because I I was going through the history material and I got to know that in the starting late Triassic era, when there was a mass extinction event, that's when around where the Y chromosomes began to start reducing from 900 to present almost like 55 genes. And there's also the thought that Y chromosomes, if they are continuing, unless they do better, or they find an alternative, um, then the Y chromosomes could go extinct, and with that, human race could go extinct. Yeah, so we need to turn things around. So, and unlike certain other species, humans haven't yet arrived at an alternative to Y chromosome. And I'm here with these thought lines. So I'm thinking life has found a way to solve the issue from me thinking along these lines. Then I'm thinking X and Y, both are important, male and female are important. While there may be, males are bad, females, mother, earth, but we're not talking in terms of father. So there's already in our thought lines, there is an imbalance between who's important, who's less important. And then you could say, okay, now fathers are important. We have a patriarchal society. Father important. But in our several levels of thinking, we see males as a problem. Yeah. And one of the reasons is these monster hiding, most dangerous being, which nature seems to have affirmed that this monster being, most dangerous, may have been what the late Triassic era let some of the species know. The monstrosity is not working. And then after the late Triassic era came the Jurassic era with the dinosaurs, and again, a mass extinction event. Because I'm thinking because of the monstrosity or not making growth is not happening. They're not thinking along certain lines. So again, start the culture, like a tissue culture or a microbiologist would like a definite kind of a strain, but it's not quite finding. And then what's happening instead is yeah. And so wash it and start again. So there's this idea of the Noah's Ark and Manvantara. So I'm thinking the Jurassic, the mass extinction event there. Again, after some time, life shows up, and then humans evolve over time with the tail stuck inside the body. Yeah. And then we have humans continuing in some time. But we have civilizations. One civilization arises, then they go through this violent colonization or, capture, and then make them, have them do according to. I'm from India. So there has been several colonization events across history. So there are those thought lines too that then informs my work. And I was saying, and then there is these pandemics every now and then, every so many years. I was thinking the pattern continues. Yeah. And I'm thinking it's like a microbiology. Over time, I found humans are life's pet project. They do good work. There have been civilizations. And there is this, the culture needs to get better. There is potential, but you got to still work through details. So there have been pandemics, different cycles of evolution. Then I discovered the COVID. And then I discovered COVID is like a Mother Nature gone wild. Yeah. And then I'm thinking the problem is again violence. The problem is with violence. Nature or Mother Nature don't like violence and would like to heal, but we are not quite supporting the matter. And we are continuing to eat meat and certain thought lines. We've even legalized violence. And we haven't really gone beyond it. So there is a concern that Mother Nature is trying to do. And I'm thinking we are all on the same planet Earth. People are thinking of colonizing Mars, Venus, different. But again, these colonization thought lines, it's like locusts, from one to another. And then I saw there was movie Wall-E, this, where Earth is, according to the movie, uninhabitable. And so they go and live in bubbles until Earth is habitable. So I was thinking, interesting thought lines. Somebody's been thinking, or some people have been thinking, or some patterns haven't been recognized. And people are trying to communicate it. Some people can see it. A lot of people can't. Then there's this idea of the Arecibo message tower that getting destroyed by zinc seeping. So I had to kind of connect the dots and see there is something else happening here. Now, this may seem like a long video, but I'm trying to keep it short. The thing is, human beings, when we consider that people are looking for extraterrestrial life, aliens, and many, many things, we may be some of the alien life looking out from the screen, from our own body genetic make. Like the virus, or the nervous system, human nervous system is said to be formed from different kinds of organisms that then organized over time through endosymbiosis to the point that the nervous system was formed from a microbe. There is other kind of organ, bacteria, for example, or there is algae, fungus, archaea, many such organisms, which also then form our body's microbiome. And there is good bacteria microbiome, and bad. And when they are diseases also, when the microbiome go a little not so fine, like the COVID. Yeah, it upset several systems. And then it was showing through the body in different ways. Um, and then a vaccination that then helps calm the violent storm. Yeah. And then there is more herd immunity. So similarly, there has been endosymbiotic events, but then there's also a human body also formed from these different organisms. So we've had the bubonic plague, and then there's been a certain rat race kind of thought lines. So medicine and engineering used to be very arduously followed, and then um, we have now the internet, yeah, and then um, we've had the COVID, and then I start thinking, something else is happening, and I'm thinking in terms of original human intelligence, and then I hear global warming is thawing some of the ice, and there is more microorganisms, yeah, which have been dormant since a long time. And I'm thinking, what is happening? Meanwhile, I've had this theory or idea called the ray of creation, and in a certain order, where microorganisms is one of our ancestors. After which, again, let me just read it out. So there is nothing, and in the beginning there was nothing, and then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Yeah, Book of Genesis. So there's nothing, and then there is a spirit. You know, there came a light, and God said the light was good. Yeah, so kind of you consider that to be spirit. Nothing, spirit, space, air, water, fire, earth, microorganisms, plants, animals, humans. Microorganisms are vanaspati, but okay. Um, um, yeah, humans. And then humans better be functioning from nothing. If they're going to be, oh me, yeah, they lose it. Because humans then when they evolve enough or become humble enough to be nothing, then this cycle continues. There's a better spirit, there's the finer spirit, and there's this idea of the Dashavatara Dashami, where you're becoming finer over time, and the cycle continues. From nothing again, the spirit, and then the spirit, the cycle. Yes, it's a cyclical process, cycles of life. Um, and you become a finer person. So when you say spirituality, and you're not becoming a finer person, but instead being, yeah, you got work to do. So, in this sense, being on Earth, human beings formed from many organisms, including tiny microorganisms, which with global warming is said to be thawing from cold ice, since ice age kind of like frozen, yeah. So you could say frozen queens, yeah, and when they thaw, the movie Frozen is talking about freezing, and then when they come to love is when how life and lemons. So I'm wondering if all these microorganisms are frozen queens. So, but an ancestor. According to the theory of creation, microorganisms are ancestors, and they also need to learn to be human. Yeah, over time, growth through the human systems, which means human beings need to be functioning in such a way that we are not a problem for what's been evolving over several times. The thing is, are we going to be amongst the living who is then facilitating better life? Because humans are required to have what it takes to be around, be profitable, and not somebody that, that the microbiologist would like to, wash off. Go, go, go. You have something. When we are functioning in such a way that we are working with the systems that has evolved over several times. There's in the Hindu way of thinking, there's this idea of chiranjeevis, because they have been functioning in certain ways that is conducive to life and how things are showing up, many several ideas. But there's also the idea of they are light beings and those kinds of thoughts. But I found that our human body itself has faculties by which we can maintain being human, humane, alive, in love, and not have to become these invisible light beings or dog beings kind. Because I was wondering, if it was so good, why are they, light beings, dark beings? And I found this over the 2 years of the pandemic on what the human body is capable of. That by how I call it Samudra Manthan, movementless Samudra Manthan. But by the body seen as a faculty of time, we can recalibrate. But it's not about recalibration. It's about working with how things are, such that we are healing the fabric of time space. There's this idea of the ninth Hanukkah candle. When you're healing the fabric of time space, bringing peace, there's this idea of the ShriGandha, where it's a root parasite, but working with the environment, working with available supports. Sandalwood turns around the economy for many trees, plants, ecosystem, and thereby like earth. Yeah. So there's a way of living that then has each human being be a profitable enterprise in the sense for the microbiologist, or at least microbiologist. So the culture, human beings are life's pet project. When we are functioning in a particular manner, we make ourselves, people around us, and that also means people who come from where our lives have taken shape, parents, grandparents, and future generations, people who are growing around us, little ones, different shape sizes, all do well. And that's how life enlivens in the multiverse, in the sense we all talk different languages, including science, different languages, religious concerns, different ways of thinking. So it's a multiverse, different ways. And we also talk planets, stars, galaxies, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, different, their own ways of thinking, has an influence from those planets, stars, galaxies on the same planet Earth. Life, and we have the idea of social media influence, like planetary influence. So this is by Vastu Shastra. Different people are having different planets predominant. So there are studies thought in terms of these influences on the Grihanatha, like the person in the house. And are you the lord of your own house? Or are we talking in terms of head of the family? But are you head of your own life? Um, and then how are we appreciating the different influences that also has us sustain life, such that we are functioning, such that microorganisms don't have to think of killing us, but instead can work with us. And I started seeing COVID-19, Corona, as a mother who's just been wild. And then the vaccination, I was told, if you don't take vaccination, you're not coming home. So I thought, okay. So I had to take vaccination, and then I studied what happens in my body while the vaccination is there. And I was noticing, And over time, as I'm working with my body composition studying, I was being less troubled, but instead I was learning from this virus. And then over time, I discovered how better to not fight, but instead work with. And that brought a lot of calm. But then I also noticed our human body is capable of, it's not taming the spirit. That's not the word. There's this movie Kantara, where they're talking about wild spirit, that's like nature gone wild. But it's not about taming the spirit, but working, it's not even working with the spirit, it's working with life's several facets, such that you could say God or devil or what have you. But we are all in different ways supporting, sustaining the whole system. That's life. And when we are not able to appreciate these several small, big, fine, not so fine, and also figuring out, for example, technology is still figuring out how to work with things. But if you don't go wild with, there are things developing, they haven't yet figured it all out. And there are also systems wanting for, okay, grow up. We're watching for humans growing up. and we are behaving anyhow. So I'm speaking for both different worlds. Yeah, I'm speaking from the center of the Sri Chakra, while there are many kinds of aspects and ways of thinking. So how then to keep it together such that each of us are alive, yeah, and we are having more humanity cross boundaries, and we are making things better such that life and living in the multiverse, and nobody's thinking of killing anybody anytime soon. Yeah, that requires it's a fine, small fine details. And that involves paying attention to our alien, monsterish, yeah, behavior thought lines or behavior mannerisms, microbial, yeah, thought lines, and there are a lot of microbes. So um, do stay tuned. If any of this content here makes sense, do contact me or join my community. I'm trying to develop a community, so we have these thought lines going on. We interact, comments. I can make things clearer from what I've studied. You can make things clearer from what you have observed. Because we're all humans. Chances are you've observed some things, but there may not have been a forum or one community where you can then talk from those thought lines. Um, I recommend joining my community because I have not found my kind of a person in some time. And I'm talking about 46 years, and 46 years in counting. So I've noticed that what I'm doing is rare, hasn't happened before. And as I've been facilitating health clinically, there's been this thought that I'm new, but I didn't know how new. And how new I am is continuing to show up from yesterday to today to as I'm speaking this, there's a sense of what I'm doing is new, hasn't been done before. So I recommend joining my community and we will have conversations, messages, interactions, and then you will discover how new or how much your thought lines have been along the lines that I'm seeing that human beings are created for, and why each of us have a reason for being in existence, and how we have a purpose, and how we can contribute in such a way that everybody's becoming better, so that all of us are becoming a lot of our own rings. It's like a human body. There's heart and liver and pancreas, and they're not expected to function like the other, but to function as part of the same human body. Yeah. So that becomes easier for us to not go into competition mode. And heart has several heart cells. Yeah. So birds of a feather flock together. You may be tending to be a particular kind of a person, like heart or liver. There are those thought lines. And we are part of the same human body. Yeah. Same life organism body. So we don't go into Star Wars. Yeah. While we are all part of the same system. Okay. So do let me know what do you think and how we can work things together. Thank you so much for your kind interest. Good day.